Welcome to Factual America, your go-to source for cutting through the noise and bringing you the stories mainstream media won't touch. Today we're delving into a topic that's buzzing in conservative circles and raising alarms across the nation. Are Democrats already laying the groundwork to rig the 2028 presidential election? The question may sound extreme to some, but as we examine current events, legislation, and institutional changes, a fascinating and frankly disturbing picture begins to emerge. So, buckle up, because the moves being made today could shape or even hijack the America of tomorrow. Before we jump forward to 2028, let's quickly revisit 2020 and 2024. Those elections didn't just spark debate. They ignited a firestorm. Millions of Americans questioned mail-in ballots, last-minute rule changes, and the role of big tech platforms. Some called it election security, others saw manipulation. Here's the twist. Instead of addressing these concerns, many Democrats and their allies seem to be doubling down, not dialing back. Think that's just politics as usual? Let's get specific. One of the earliest and most consequential moves has been a flurry of voting law changes in Democrat-controlled states. Take California as a template. Universal mail-in voting, permanent drop boxes, and automatic voter registration with the DMV are no longer pandemic measures, they're now standard policy. Add to that same-day voter registration and suddenly the doors are wide open. Proponents call it access. Critics? They call it a gateway to fraud. This isn't just about California. Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and several others are implementing similar measures. At first glance, expanding voting access sounds fair. But when voting safeguards erode, the very foundation of our republic shakes. If almost anyone can register and vote on the spot, with minimal ID, what's to stop unscrupulous actors from exploiting the system? But wait, it gets deeper. Let's talk about the census and redistricting. Traditionally, every 10 years, America counts its population and redraws congressional districts. But Democrats, especially in blue states, are pushing for non-citizen inclusion in the count, and even want non-citizens voting in local elections. If districts are drawn based on total population, regardless of citizenship status, urban, Democrat-leaning areas gain more seats and, consequently, more power in Congress. That tilts the playing field from the start. Some say, hey, that's just representation, not rigging. But if you're inflating your numbers by counting non-citizens or facilitating voting without robust checks, election integrity is at risk. It's like starting a game where one team already has several points on the board before the first whistle even blows. Let's turn to technology, the real 800-pound gorilla in the room. Remember 2020 when social media companies censored major news stories days before the election? When platforms fact-checked only conservative posts and suppressed legitimate debate? Well, those tactics haven't disappeared. In fact, many Democrats are lobbying for even more regulation, not less. Under the guise of fighting misinformation, powerful tech companies fine-tune their algorithms to sideline dissenting voices and boost preferred narratives. Let's be real. Control the media. Control the message. The number of Americans who get their news from TikTok, Instagram, or algorithm-driven feeds only grows each year. If these channels skew left, intentionally or otherwise, they shape the perceptions of millions. In a close election, that margin could decide everything. You may be thinking, but that's just private companies. True, but look closer. The Biden administration and Democrat lawmakers have openly discussed partnering with tech companies to root out so-called disinformation. In practice, this means the government nudges Silicon Valley to silence dissenters. The government outsourcing censorship to corporations. That's a recipe for tyranny, not democracy. Still not convinced? Here's something that flew under the radar. A new push for DC statehood and expanding the Supreme Court, aka court packing. Both efforts are about locking in one-party rule. DC statehood would guarantee 2 more Democrat senators, tilting Congress for decades. Court packing, meanwhile, would neutralize conservative justices, fundamentally changing how laws are interpreted. These aren't pie-in-the-sky ideas. Legislation has already been drafted. Hearings have been held. And if Democrats retake both the White House and Congress in 2028, expect these ideas to roar back to life. It's not just about winning elections. It's about transforming the landscape so victory is almost guaranteed, regardless of what the American people want. Let's follow the money. Another underreported tactic is the ballooning of campaign finance loopholes and the proliferation of so-called dark money groups. Who bankrolls these efforts to change election laws, redraw districts, or pressure tech giants? Groups like Act Blue, Arabella Advisors, and dozens of shell organizations funnel tens of millions into the process, often with little transparency. This isn't grassroots. It's big money steering the ship. But perhaps the most eye-opening twist is the recent trend of lawfare, using the legal system to kneecap political opponents. In 2024, we saw numerous lawsuits, investigations, and prosecutions targeting conservative candidates and political organizations. Democrats have learned that by weaponizing the courts, they can shape the opponent's bench, literally and figuratively, long before Election Day. If you think this is just election year gamesmanship, think again. Teams of Democrat-aligned attorneys and strategists have launched what they call election protection efforts, with millions earmarked for lawsuits and challenges in battleground states, sometimes years before a single vote is cast. The goal: create friendly judicial precedents, block reform laws, and intimidate those who dare ask for voter ID or ballot audits. Now let's talk culture, the often overlooked battlefield. From universities to Hollywood to cable news, a progressive orthodoxy dominates public life. Why does this matter? Because all of these institutions shape how we think, what we believe, and ultimately, how we vote. Big donors pump money into education, entertainment, and media outlets that push one side's talking points. Before you know it, challenging the narrative makes you an outcast. If you doubt it, just look at the growing cancel culture phenomenon. Dissent gets punished. Whether you're a student, celebrity, or average American, questioning the official line on voting or election law, you risk social ostracization, job loss, or worse. It's intimidation, plain and simple, and it works. The message: don't challenge us, or you'll pay. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the border crisis. Why? Because massive, unchecked immigration doesn't just change demographics, it could change the electorate. Some Democrat strategists have openly admitted that their long-term plan includes making millions of new arrivals eligible voters as soon as possible. Pathway to citizenship isn't just about compassion, it's about shifting the electoral deck. Look, America is, and always has been, a nation of immigrants. But if immigration policy is weaponized to create a permanent political majority, we're not just talking compassion anymore. We're talking about changing the very rules of the game. Let's not forget, all these tactics, relaxed voting laws, big tech censorship, court packing schemes, dark money, lawfare, pressure on cultural institutions, and demographic engineering, don't operate in isolation. They're coordinated, interconnected, and aimed at the same result: giving Democrats a near insurmountable advantage long before voters go to the polls in 2028. So, you may be asking, is there any hope? Absolutely. Truth, vigilance, and active citizenship are our best safeguards. If ordinary Americans demand transparency, robust election integrity laws, honest debate in the public square, and respect for our Constitution, the tide can turn. We've seen it before in American history. Remember, factual America isn't about stoking fear. It's about presenting facts, peeling back the curtain, and challenging you to look deeper. If you care about the future, your vote, your country, your kids, it's essential to stay informed and engaged, not just during an election year, but every year. And here's the real twist. The establishment counts on your apathy. Distracted, divided, and discouraged citizens are controllable. But history shows, when Americans wake up, mobilize, and demand accountability, things change fast. So what do you think? Are Democrats just making the system more accessible, or is this the beginning of a coordinated strategy to control 2028 and beyond? Do you trust the changes being made, or do you sense a deeper agenda? Tell us in the comments below. Do you see evidence of rigging on the horizon, or is this just politics as usual? We want your thoughts, your stories, and your ideas for topics to cover next. And if you found this video informative, hit like, subscribe, and share, so more Americans hear the facts that matter. Until next time, this is Factual America, where truth has no bias, and your voice counts.